Serena. Oh my goodness, who's your good girl? Who's your good girl? Who's your good girl? Who's your good girl? Hey guys, what's going on? Thank you so much for joining me. It is Nicole from Dogo Argentino, USA. And I have been reading my comments. I always read my comments. So if you want to reach me, the best way is in the comments. And I've heard a couple people ask about introducing Dogo Argentinos to other dogs. And the first thing I want to talk about is the main purpose of you introducing them. And then I'm going to give you 5 tips that you can use to introduce a Dogo Argentino to a new dog. Oh, who's Panty? Who's Panty? You'll have to excuse Serena. She is Panty. Okay, so the first thing that is important is to know what the purpose of introducing them is, because your purpose is going to affect how you do it. So if you are Serena, I'm talking to you. Can you talk to Mama? Can you talk to Mama? Can you talk to Mama? Hi. Hello. She's just heavy breathing through this. Heavy breathing like there's no tomorrow. Oh, extra paddings. Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Okay, you couldn't see that. Zeus came in the room. Okay, so the purpose affects the way you do it. So if you are wanting to introduce 2 dogs that are going to be family members, that's going to be really different than introducing 2 dogs that are going to hunt together, or 2 dogs that are going to live in the home but they're going to be protection assets, or 2 dogs that are only going to meet each other casually occasionally. So for this video, for the purposes of this video, I am going to be addressing introducing 2 dogs that are meant to be family members. And a lot of times people don't put a lot of thought into how their pack is going to interact with each other until after they have the Dogo Argentino and they already have other family members in terms of other dogs. That would be one of the things that I think that you should give the most thought to. Is a Dogo Argentino going to blend with your pack? Now, there are individual things that affect how a Dogo Argentino is going to blend. Serena. Thank you. Thank you, Pantypotamus. Pantypotamus. Who's panting so much? So, when you're thinking about introducing a Dogo, you have to think about the personality of your pre-existing dogs. So I would want you to consider whether or not those pre-existing dogs are likely going to be a good fit for a Dogo. Dogos are hunting dogs, they are protection dogs, and they can make great family dogs under the right circumstances. But they are what I would consider a special needs exotic dog. And by that, I mean, it's got a different type of temperament than a Labrador. So if you're expecting your Dogo Argentino to act like a Labrador, it never will. It's never going to happen. And you have misplaced your hopes there, because it's just not going to be. A Dogo Argentino is a rustic hunting breed. It needs a job, meaning that you need to give it something to do in order for it not to become bored and destructive. And it needs exhaustive daily exercise. So letting it out in the yard is usually not enough unless your yard is 2 acres or more. Prior to that, if it's less land than that, they're going to become bored really, really quickly, and that's not ideal because a bored Dogo tends to develop very destructive habits, and that could be everything from nuisance barking to digging in the garden to having pent-up frustration that can turn into aggression. So if you've gotten this dog without doing much research, you've got a long road ahead of you. It doesn't mean that you can't be successful, but it does mean that you're going to have to put in a lot more work. So let's get straight to it. Let's assume that you have done your research, the dogs are a good fit, your pre-existing dog and the new dog. And for the purposes of this video, I'm going to assume that you're introducing a Dogo Argentino puppy. So the first thing that a lot of people do, and it's a mistake, is that they take the puppy straight into the house and they plop it in the middle of the living room and let the dogs, do what they will, and then they're surprised that it doesn't go well. Well, that's the wrong attitude to have and the wrong method to take. You need to take your Dogo Argentino puppy and your pre-existing dog, whether it's one or many. You need to put everybody on a leash and take them to a neutral location, such as a park. You might need family members for this because you really want one person being able to control the leash of one dog, not multiple dogs. And you're going to start about 25 feet away and see if there's reactivity. By that I mean barking, growling, hackles raised, something like that. And you're going to slowly increase until you're probably about 5 feet away. And every time you get a positive reaction, you're going to reinforce with a treat. Good dog. And when you get a negative reaction, you are not going to correct. You're going to actually step back a foot or two until you go back to that neutral reaction and reinforce. And this process is going to take probably about 2 to 3 hours. So it's not something you can do in 5 minutes and then go home. You need to plan the day that you receive the Dogo Argentino puppy to have this happen outside the home, regardless of whether it needs to happen on a neutral area. Your yard is not neutral to let you know, either front or back or the house. You need to go somewhere else. You want to slowly move up, and you're doing this at the dog's speed, not at your speed, meaning that you're doing the moving closer when the dog shows no negative reaction. If you can't do that, if you have done all the steps, you've stepped back, you've tried to go to a neutral spot, you have tried to reinforce positively, and you just can't get them near them, then you're going to have to separate the dogs 100% in the home until you can go back to the neutral area and get a neutral reaction basically next to each other. Now, one of the things to do before you go to that extreme, and this would be tip 2, on a leash, do an activity that is mutual. So for example, you can play fetch with each of the dogs, and you can kind of get them distracted. They're next to each other, they're getting near each other, they're getting used to each other's presence, but they are not necessarily interacting with each other. It's more like they're interacting next to each other. And you're trying to basically get a neutral reaction. Okay, so let's assume that things have gone well, that they have done their play session on leash, you're still in a neutral location, you've now going to do some exercise with each of the dogs on leash. So this would be the time that I encourage you to take a jog, a swift walk, a run if you're able to, with each of the dogs for at least, dogs can outrun you, so I would say at least 10 to 15 minutes if you can, at the maximum speed you personally are able to maintain safely. So if that means that you can run, you should run. If that means you can jog, you should jog. If all you can manage is a really strenuous walk, do that. Do the maximum amount you can, because once the dogs have gotten used to each other physically, have done an exercise like fetch or something, tug of war next to each other but not interacting, and then you do some exhaustive exercise as long as you can, 10-15 minutes at the minimum. If you can do it for an hour or 2 hours, this is going to go a lot smoother for you, because exhausted dogs are more likely to be tolerant, and a tolerant dog is more likely to not seat in its psychological makeup a negative experience in the home. Okay, so do it for as long as you possibly can. Now, once you get home, you're not going to let them just willy-nilly form a dog ball in your living room. That is a bad idea. You are going to separate your dogs for at least I think 3 or 4 days. And by that I mean you're going to have different areas of the house cordoned off with a baby gate so that they can see each other It has to be secure. They cannot knock it down. You need to do whatever is possible to make that happen. Because once your pre-existing dogs have a new dog in the house, they are going to naturally defend what they consider to be their territory, which is mainly going to be things like favorite toys, food and water, you, their person, and where they sleep, because these are how the pack establishes a pack order in the wild. So you're not going to let a new Dogo Argentino puppy go over to your old dog's favorite bed, lay down with its favorite toy, and just start chewing away, because that other dog is very unlikely to accept that behavior, because there's a new animal encroaching. Now, the good thing about introducing a puppy with introducing pre-existing dogs is that almost all dogs are tolerant of puppies. They understand that a puppy is not the same threat as an adult, and so tolerance works in your favor. Getting to adults and introducing them is a completely different ball game and is a much slower process. But you're going to separate the dogs at home, and you're going to separate them for every facet of life, from play to sleep to activities, and you want to make sure you're splitting your time equally. But I personally do think that you should feed, play, do everything with your older dogs first and your new puppy second, because the puppy should be on the lowest rung of the ladder in terms of pack order. It's a puppy. A lot of people make the mistake of spending the lion's share of their attention on the puppy because it's new and because it's a puppy, and they tend to neglect the older dogs, which makes them feel insecure regarding their position in the pack, and that tends to lead to squabbles, and squabbles can lead to fights, and fights can lead to nipping, and nipping can lead to biting, and biting can lead to aggression, and aggression can lead to deep-seated hatred of the other creature. So you're trying to nip that all at the bud by giving the lion's share of your attention to the old dog. And if you need to use a timer, you need to use a timer. People sometimes, they don't realize, hey, I thought I spent 15 minutes with the old dog, but I actually spent 5 minutes with the old dog and I spent 30 minutes with the new puppy. Don't do that. Okay, so you want to address areas of special concern. Feed the old dogs first. Feed the new puppy second, as in I think you should completely feed and water the old dogs, have their entire meal alone. Let the puppy watch, because you're reinforcing these dogs are higher on the social order. It's going to make them feel more secure, and it's going to make the puppy understand that it's not the king of the roost, so to speak. You want to make sure that you are not allowing the puppy to violate certain areas of special concern. The food and water dishes, sleeping areas, that kind of thing. I think, personally, you should not allow puppies on the furniture at all. I think once they have learned the rules and learned respect, if you choose to let them on the furniture, you can. But I personally, it is my opinion, you should not let any puppy or any new dog on any furniture item until it's at least been with you 6 months. Because in the wild, the choice place of resting and the choice place of sleeping is a status that is earned in the pack, and the higher your status, the better your sleeping arrangements and your resting arrangements are. Why is that? Because the alpha members of the pack are going to choose the safest place to sleep, the safest place to rest, because it gives them a better vantage point against predators or against danger, and the lesser members of the pack have to sleep lower in the more open areas. And again, you're trying to work with what is the natural psychology of the dog. If you're trying to work against the natural psychology of the dog, you are either going to have an uphill battle or you're just going to fail outright. So work with the natural pack order. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how you can introduce new animals to your pack. You will eventually allow heavy supervision. Remember the umbilical cord? I talked about that in the video on potty training. You should literally leash the new puppy to you for potty training reasons, but also because you can't get into something in terms of a fight or a disagreement between your older dogs or your pre-existing dogs and your new dog that way. And I think that that is a great method in terms of introduction. A lot of the problems with introducing new animals comes because people put them in together right away. They kind of throw up their hands, they're like, what happens, happens, and they like leave the room, which is terrible. You don't know what's going on. You just can't do that. It's literally not safe for anybody involved, not people or the animals. So slowly introduce each other in heavy supervised umbilical corded fashion after 3 to 4 days of separation. And what you're hoping is that the curiosity will help the interaction along, and that the little puppy will be a puppy and will try to engage and play through the gate that you have established, and that the other dogs will eventually accept it. Now, I do think that you should continue, even once you have heavy supervision, of feeding the other dogs first and your puppy second in a different location, because if you have adult dogs, those dogs are being fed on average twice a day. The puppy's going to need to be fed 3 times a day because it's a baby, and you want to do that separate and apart from the adults so that the baby is getting its full nutrition. You can't allow the adults to eat the baby food. A, they'll get fat because baby food is higher in caloric value, but B, your puppy needs to eat in order to grow and be healthy, so you don't want to take that away. I hope you found this helpful. I put out weekly videos that are educational in nature. I know that I don't have the highest production value, but I really hope that you find the content valuable and helpful in terms of your Dogo Argentino dogs. It would be so helpful to me if you commented below, because that helps the YouTube algorithm turn on and spread my message to other people who might be interested in educational material about Dogo Argentino dogs and puppies. As always, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and ding ding, hit that bell for notifications so that you are notified every time I drop a new video. I do put out new videos every week, always one, sometimes more than one if I get the chance. I hope you guys are having a fantastic time. Thank you for your time and attention, and have a Dogo-tastic day. Look what we got here. Sleeping Dogo. Cute, right? Sleeping Dogo.
Yeah, it's like a crawl space, unless you're like a hobbit and then it's a bedroom.
Yeah, but I'm gonna forget all the time. I'm gonna stand up, bang my head.
You'll bang it once, and then you'll remember.
Yeah, you say that.
Maybe twice. Maybe twice.
Oh, it's gonna be coming down. I don't want a hunchback. I don't want her to have a hunchback.
No. So you can stand up in here, but it's still
A little more
dangerous.
space.
Yeah, that's right. Isn't it better to have 2 bedrooms than one? It's not really 2 bedrooms. It's like one okay bedroom and then a tiny space. Neither of these rooms is really viable as an office. Normal life is, difficult enough. I don't need to give him extra reasons to be miserable,
Okay, I want to hear everything you have to say about this.
Well, it has nice views.
It was clean, it was bright. I like the skylights. I got the other problem of getting concussion every time I see the clock.